going back to Buffett's childhood. There was a racetrack in Nebraska called Aksarben, which is Nebraska spelled backwards. When Buffett was a teenager, he used to go to the racetrack and he had several activities on the racetrack. He had tips for the bettors. He had newsletter called Stable Boy Selections, which he used to sell to help the people who were betting. And then after all the races were over, he would gather up all the tickets that people had discarded on the ground or in the trash cans and so on. He would bring them all home and he would go through each one carefully to see if some drunk had discarded a winning ticket. Of course, most tickets that are discarded are going to be useless and they're actually discarded for good reasons. But he would find a decent number of these discarded tickets that actually were winning tickets. In 2012, when we went to Omaha, Buffett takes us into his private office. And I noticed in his private office, the Japan Company Handbook. And it's basically value line for Japan. It has half a page on every listed Japanese company. The print is even smaller than the Moody's manual. He's giving you a little bit of quantitative data, earnings, dividends, market cap, book value. We know Japanese stocks are so cheap. Buffett, on his birthday in 2020, August 30th, Berkshire announced that they had taken more than a 5% stake in 5 Japanese trading companies. Mitsui, Mitsubishi, Marubeni, Sumitomo. And he did a couple of interesting things with this Japanese bet. First, he didn't put up any capital. He invested, I believe, about 5 billion, and he borrowed the entire 5 billion in yen in Japan at 0.5% interest per year fixed. These 5 trading companies had an 8% dividend yield. He was going to be paying on 5 billion about 25 million a year in interest, and he was going to be collecting about 400 million a year in dividends. These companies have been around for decades and decades. He visited with Greg Abel earlier this year to Japan, and he met all the 5 companies, and he's bumped up the positions now. They're about 8% or so each. What has happened in the last 3 years since that filing, the 400 million dividend is now 800 million. And the 5 billion is maybe 12 billion. The return on equity on that bet is infinite because there was no equity put up. If you look at the 2022 letter that Buffett wrote, which came out this year, he said that in 58 years of running Berkshire, there have been 12 ideas or 12 things that he has done that have moved the needle. If we look at the last several years for Buffett, the 2 ideas that really stand out have been Apple and the Japanese bets.